wanted to make this video to put some clarity into what's out there, and honestly, just get it off my chest. So right now I'm parked next to Coby's grave, and it's truly heartbreaking. So just so you know, I've got like a split screen on my phone. I took some notes just to kind of keep me on track. So it's not really a script, but some of it I'll read, and others I'll go off topic. But I don't know. I feel like the truth needs to be known. And I wish it had gotten out sooner. So I'm a very private person. There's only a few people that actually truly know who I am and what I'm about. A lot of what I'm gonna say is just my word against theirs, but there's also text messages, emails, recorded calls, screenshots, and witnesses to everything I'm saying. So, or at least most of it, were applicable. So, I've always kept a small circle of a lot of things, but a bad father isn't one. I mean, there's always room for improvement, but I include them with everything I do. Cooking, cleaning, like, there's never just, hey, get somewhere. Like, there's never anything like that. I don't yell. If a spanking is necessary, it's not out of anger. Like, they don't even, they're kids. Why are they making anybody mad? They're learning. So, I'm just, in general, a very calm person. And if you actually know me, you know that. Um, I feel like I was abused as a child, and because of the household I lived in, I swore I would do better for my kids. I enjoy peace. Peace is very important. Um, I didn't have a relationship with my dad other than, really, from what I can remember, just getting spankings because, like, go to your room till your dad gets home. Uh, couldn't help with anything because he'd always yell. I remember when he was digging his own trenches for the septic system lines, and they offered to buy me a new video game every week or every month if I would go out there and help. And it's like, at first I did, and then because I wasn't digging right, I wasn't digging it straight enough. Like, nah, it's not worth it. You know, um, never played catch. He taught me nothing about life. But he asked me for fighting lessons. He was having issues with a coworker. And I don't remember his name now, but I think he like got the phone company. He used to, but I think he sells insurance now. I could be wrong, but I think Michael was the first name, but I can't remember. That was so long ago. That's when I worked at the prison. He was asking me for how to fight. My mom was always a stay-at-home mom, but yet I don't remember when she actually got up with me and my brother to get us on the bus for school. She just always slept in. You know, she's hit me hard enough that it made me bleed. Thrown me. I remember being thrown, like literally thrown by the arm into a cold shower and then thrown naked on my bed, and it was just a mattress on the floor. I don't remember what for. I know I was probably second or third grade, old enough to know better, but I don't know about y'all, but even still to this day, like, when you go to the bathroom for number two, like, that's my time, that's very private time, but back then, there wasn't doors on the bathroom stalls. I mean, shortly before I went to school, it was just toilets on the floor, but I had to do a number two one day, and apparently I was in such a hurry to not get caught doing that, I didn't wipe my butt. So you know what that means for my employer at the time. like we've all had, the bad childhoods, and not all of us. Some of us have had worse and better than others, but these are kind of people that we were dealing with. So there was no love in the house. Like, we didn't hug, we didn't kiss. There was no "I love yous." There was nothing like that. The only people that we hugged was like grandma and aunts and stuff that we might have seen once a year, maybe twice. Um, that was it though. Like, there was no love, which is totally opposite of how I am. Um, I met Coby's mom at work at the prison. She pursued me like I knew better, but we both just went through a divorce, so it's like, why not? Booty call. There was birth control malfunction, and boom. Uh, we never talked about kids, we never anything, but as we went on, I learned like she had teenagers. She didn't want to start over, but we did. Uh, she called him an accident one time, and like I had to correct her. It's like, don't call him an accident. I've always called him a surprise. Accident has like negative connotation to it, so no, he's not an accident. He was a surprise, and a pleasant surprise. He was my first, and he taught me a lot, a lot. Um, there's, when he was younger, like baby, she didn't even want to fight to breastfeed him. And we all know how important breastfeeding is. It's the best thing in the world for babies. And her major at the prison said that, okay, you can breastfeed one time in your 12-hour shift, and it has to be in the bathroom. Well, there's federal law against that. Like, I found it, printed it out. Like, no, he can't tell you that at all. She didn't want to fight, so she stopped. She didn't, like, right is right, wrong is wrong. But he was a dick anyway. When he was a baby, I worked 3 jobs to support him because his formula, his special formula, was expensive. Um, I was still at the prison. I worked night shift at HEB, and I was a reserve cop. Like, I worked every day just to make sure that everybody was supported. So my mom offered to keep him, babysitter, daycare kind of stuff. Gave her a chance. Maybe, she's outgrown some of that crazy stuff. Um, but it wasn't long before he was too much for her. He no longer just wanted to sit in the bouncer all day, and while she stood at the stove smoking, like literally all day. She'd be on the phone with, she's got like 4 or 5 sisters. She'd be on the phone with one of them just gossiping all day long. And she would smoke at the stove with the little vent lid on. It didn't help anything. I mean, their ceilings are always yellow, like it's a smoker's house. Um, but she never would go outside with them. She didn't want to do any of that. So I put him in daycare for a few days a week, um, which pissed her off. When he got old enough, like, one, I paid for the daycare even after we split up. When he got old enough, I paid for the private school because like he was wild. He was wild, and at the private school, that's one of the things I even asked the teachers and the administrator. Like, he can be standing on his head on the other side of the room as long as he's doing his work and not disturbing everybody else. They don't care. It was better than like public school, expecting him to sit 8 hours a day, in the same seat. And, like, I knew that was highly improbable. So we did that. He had the same teachers for kindergarten and first grade. Those same teachers didn't know who his mom was until field day, the end of first grade, when I was there. I had to go take a call. Like, in those pictures, like I ran the racetrack with them, and I left for a call, and then came back, and I had teachers and other parents because everybody knew me. switch flipped, and he just was wild. He's running under the bleachers, wouldn't come to his mom until one of his teachers actually had to get a hold of him because she had no idea. Even when she got a hold of him, she had no idea that his mama was right there. 2 years in school, and this is a school where I went every day. Like lunch break, I would go just see how he's doing. Like I wouldn't disturb class and stuff, but if they're at recess or at lunch or something, yeah, I'd go in there and see how he was doing. Um, but for 2 years, the teachers didn't know. When Coby was 3, I believe he was 3 years old. He was Captain America for Halloween. We took him over to my parents' house to just let him see him in his costume. We think we trick or treated like a couple of houses, and he was done. So I was like, that's cool, that's cool. And that was the last night because my mom said some off the wall stuff about me and his mom getting a divorce. And it's like we'd already worked it out, 50-50, like no big deal. He was gonna be taken care of. I don't need a judge to tell me to take care of my kids. Um, but I walked away because she's has undiagnosed mental health issues. She won't get help. And I've told her, and the entire family just says, well, you know how your mom is, you know how she is. I know how she is. In 23 years of training with mental health, she needs help. But nobody wants to say that because they don't want to stir up anything. So I told her when she gets help, we can try again. But until then, I'm not interested in a relationship with her, nor her with my kids. As far as I know, she's yet to get help. So me and his mom divorced because I found out that while I was working 6 and 7 days a week, my days off in Houston to provide for a family of 5, she had another guy coming over to the house. And you know what? I wasn't even mad. Like, okay, I ain't got nothing to say to you unless it has to do with the kids. I'm done. Probably a few months later, and like we shared a house. She even moved into a different room. That way, at least, hey, Coby's there when I get home every day. And then that started not working out for whatever reason. I could have done that forever. I don't care. So she went and got an apartment right down the block, like walking distance. Told her to take whatever she wanted, anything. Didn't stop her. I didn't care if it was food, furniture, take whatever you want. We split the money right down the middle, and we went our separate ways. She didn't even show up to the divorce, to the hearing. Like, typed it up online, did it all ourselves, we signed it, and I showed up. Judge said okay. Like, that's how trustworthy I am. You know, but I even talked to his wife, the guy's wife. Like, she knew. Apparently it'd been going on. It wasn't just a one-time thing. They worked together. Hell, he worked for me at one time. But I got screen recording or screenshots of the conversation with his wife. The problem with that is, though, she was like an illegal alien, and so she couldn't really just up and leave him. But she'd been here for years. Like, I don't know the process, but apparently it's long and expensive. So, had him in team sports. I had him in team sports. Baseball. You know, because I was always working, but I was able to get away because, you know, the sport, like baseball was in the city. I could go over there when I worked for the police department. And, you know, my girlfriend at the time, one of her exes was out there warming up with him. You know, one of the few games that my family came to. That my girlfriend's baby daddy, ex-boyfriend, was having to warm up with him because his grandpa wasn't there, or he was there but didn't want to. My brother was there but didn't. Like, it was just crazy. So that's cool. Football, I coached his football team. I signed up. Me and my girlfriend's ex signed up to coach. And anytime I was there, Coby was fine. He was disciplined. You know, he was on as good a behavior as any 7 or 8 year old would be on, like any of them. But when they weren't, when I couldn't be there because it was
too. Um,
Was one that he was just acting crazy. He was like dancing and just entertaining
the other team stands, but not doing football. Like the referee actually had to tell him to go sit down, and then she looked up, well, what'd you kick him out for? Like he's not playing. That was the last team game. Like, well, if he don't want to go, I'm not going to make him. Well, he signed up to be part of a team, but
now that the coach is kidding and showing it, which is wild. Um, they would call me to their house, my parents and his mom would call me to their house to come spank him because he was just out of control. Because nobody could make him listen like I could. And I didn't spank hard. It was always 3 swats on the butt. We talked about it, we hugged it out, and then it was back to normal. Um, but she would text me, his mom would text me, he's like,
spanked him. I've done this and I've done that, and he's just still not listening. I need you to come. Well, she was a block away. My parents were, 5 minutes away, 10 minutes.
but only went over there on her time. Because, so eventually I took her back to court for full custody because he was talking to a 3-year-old about sex and a murder gang. And his mom and my parents were not adhering to his diet. And we did twice weekly blood tests. Uh, I sent an ugly text message to everybody involved because I'm picking him up at 6 when I get off work and basically have to fill his belly up 3 times because he ate nothing, drank nothing, and just at that point it wasn't a fact of making him eat or drink anything. It was like, all right, let's take a break, let's go drink your formula because it was a special formula, but let's do all of this because he had to have X amount of formula and X amount of feed to grow. He had his special diet, phenylketonuria. In fact, this is how unscripted it is. Let's see. Yep. Let's see if you can see that in that bold it says phenylketonuria, which contains phenylalanine. It's sugar free. So that's it was a very important diet. And he had to have enough protein just to grow and develop into a normal boy. But too much would become a poison in his brain, cause behavioral problems. I mean, honestly, even death. Um, I provided special foods for my house and his mom's um, up until the point that I took her back to court. And then I'm guessing that the lawyer's like, no, you need to start handling that. So that then she started splitting the school costs and ordering her own special food. Because, again, my son wasn't going to go without. Um, in the middle of that, uh, I was given a shift change, like in the middle of the court case. For 6 or 7 years, I worked 6 a.m., 6 p.m., same shift, same. My partners changed, my sergeant changed, but it was always the same until I complained about an inept sergeant that was literally putting lives at risk, and another officer was complaining about a dispatcher on the other shift. So instead of addressing the legitimate issues, he swapped me to 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. and put the other officer on my shift just so that we would stop complaining. Even though we weren't the only ones complaining, the complaints were legitimate. That was his solution. Lieutenant back then, chief now. Uh, that was the solution to that. So, like, well, shit. I had a babysitter lined out. Like, everything was lined out for the shift that I've been on for years. So now all of a sudden, shit, I don't have a stable schedule. 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. for a single dad. Like, wow. That's in the middle of a court case. That's good. They always say we was family, but here, this is family, right? His mom had always had issues making sure the special diet was maintained, and it didn't just flat out refuse to listen to me and his medical team. diet is so important that, and this is where the emails and stuff come in, that his team, his medical team, his specialist team, told us he needs to have the formula, how important this formula is. Give it to him before food, and if he refuses to drink it before he eats, starve him for up to 10 days. Do not let him eat for up to 10 days. He'll get hungry. Wow. Let that sink in. Your doctor, and they're great people, don't get me wrong, but that's how important this special formula is. Starve him for up to 10 days. So, we as parents together decided we rather spank him and make him go ahead and drink it than starve him for 10 days. Or a day. Or 2 days. Like, we'd rather just force feed him and be done with it. And guess what? She tried to use that against me in court too. But this is where the text messages and the emails come in, because like she texts me, there was a day he had bruises on his butt. You know, it happens. They were on his butt. He drank his milk now, and then after that day, never really had a problem ever since. The very next day, she's texting me to come to her house to spank him because she already has, and he's still not listening to her. Still not drinking his milk. So she texts me, hey, can you come over? Like, all right, give me 5 minutes. And then she's like, okay, he's drinking now. The threat of daddy just showing up. Well, he didn't respect women anyway. Not a problem with me, per se, but we could tell. Then we'll get into some of that. But that's how important his diet is, that his dietitian and his pediatric specialist, genetic specialist. So while I'm dealing with that, and his numbers are high at his mom's house, and his numbers are steady good at my house, he's still getting in trouble. Like including after COVID, we had to put him in public school. Or during COVID, we put him in public school because they had a curriculum, so he wouldn't get behind. He had a bomb threat. Said he had a bomb in his backpack. Previous to this, he raised his fist like he was going to punch his elderly teacher at the private school. Lying. We tried everything because spanking was no longer working. Tiffany, his sister, even posted on Facebook that, spanking was the only thing that worked at one time. And then that stopped working. So we're thinking outside the box. Let's figure out what it is. He wrote sentences. Come back to that. Taking toys away, push-ups. He received rewards or no punishment at his mom's house when he got in trouble. So let me come back to sentences. So he was told by his mom to lie about these sentences. So, me and Susie had always agreed that if he's supposed to have agreed that if he's in trouble at my house, he'd be in trouble at her house and vice versa. So I think for the bomb threaders, it was something, but all right, write 1,000 sentences. So it was time to go to his mom's house. He wasn't done with the sentences, so he was supposed to finish them over there. He gets dropped off. I think it was probably after school or something. I text her, or call her, and I text her. And he came in, it's like, hey, how many sentences did you get done? I don't know. It's like, okay, well, what did you write all weekend? And he was going back to the table where the sentences he was writing at my house still were. And he's like, well, hold on. I mean, if you've been writing sentences all weekend, you know what you've been writing, right? So it's like, come to find out, no. He just couldn't choose what was on TV. That was his punishment at his mom's house. He could still watch TV. Everything was fine. He didn't write the first sentence. So when I texted his mom, she said that she didn't add him up, and his stepdad, Coby's stepdad, had already thrown the papers away. But Coby had just told me that he didn't write any sentences, but they told him to lie about it so he wouldn't get in more trouble. That's great for, an 8 or 9-year-old. It's awesome to just, paint daddy as the bad guy and go against everything. And it's a freaking bomb threat. He got suspended from school. Sentences kept him busy. But was away. That was something that came up in the protected order hearing. He just gotten a new DJ toy mixer, little spinner thing, and Susie was on the stand. His mom was on the stand saying, "I smashed it. Just I was so pissed off at him, and he had done something, and I smashed it to bits." Well, the next day I brought it, still in the Walmart sack. He brought it to my house, and it was put up with all the other toys. There's text messages to say that I told her that. Um, yeah, because what am I tearing stuff up for? I ain't put a hole in my house. I ain't like, no, just, no, put it up with all the rest of his toys because, hey, we was trying everything to get him to, like, control himself. My mom, according to Coby anyway, told him that push-ups was child abuse. That when he got in trouble and I say, hey, drop and give me 10, child abuse. He wasn't doing 100 push-ups. He couldn't do 100 push-ups. He was literally doing 10. 10 push-ups. Not getting a spanking, not grounding, not any 10 push-ups. And my mom is telling him that it's child abuse. So he, yeah. Other times, like right before everything happened, he was getting bit by insects, some kind of insects at his mom's house. Because as soon as he came in, like he's covered in them. And I see him on his arm, I lift his shirt up, and it's like there's a trail getting ate up. Text messages between me and my ex and his mom, and like what is going on? He's getting ate up by something. Like he ain't been here in 3 or 4 days. He didn't get ate up here, but yet he's there. So I did like a video, Doctor on Demand, got screenshots from that, seeing if they can identify, because certain insects, especially household insects, they leave a tree. Like I don't know, but I figured I'd try. Couldn't tell me. Just put cortisone cream on it and go from there. Okay. But he was covered head to toe in bites. But they said that. We'll go back to that. So when everything else wasn't working, he was given busy work to go pull weeds in the backyard. Literally 200 feet from a back door. While we were discussing like what other initials, because he'd been diagnosed with ADHD, so he was on like a low dose just to help him at school. He didn't take it like when he got home or anything. He was normal, never had real issues, but just while he was at school. But there was obviously something else going on where like nothing was working, nothing could get through to him because you get your ass beat a couple of times. You get like even me, I got my ass beat a lot, and eventually I stopped doing the same stuff. So we're trying to figure it out, have a doctor's appointment for him set up, and just waiting. But if it was dinner time, lunchtime, it's church time, like anything, he was still involved in that. Like he still came in to eat. He still ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He had to because he needed a special formula and a special food. Because I wanted my boy to grow up as normal as possible. So the last night, he had like this much worth of work to do. Should have taken 15 minutes. Because we checked on him, most of the time, by dark, it was like, all right, come on in, get a shower and everything else. Well, the last night that he was with me, and he had something that should have taken like 15 minutes. And this is pulling weeds that are like 3 foot tall in sand that a 2-year-old could go out there with 2 fingers and pull up. Like it's not excruciating work at all. He just didn't want to. He gave up. He stopped. And it's like, okay, I'll come back and check on you in a little bit. Just get it done and you're done. Like this was it. This was just busy work. Now we're just working out a principle here. And the next time I checked on him, he still wasn't done. It's like, all right. Well, at some point, he covered himself up with the towel and just laid down and went to sleep. So I let him sleep. He was 10 feet away from one shelter, 20 feet away from another one, 25, 30 feet away from his grandparents' house. Not my parents, again, 200 feet from mine. There's keys to the house outside. There's a pin pad on one door that he knew. The only really friend he had in the area lived on the fence behind him. It's a fenced-in yard. The commissioner lived next to us, so like it's a decent neighborhood. It's safe. It's May. Temperature's great. Apparently it rained that night. I don't remember. I fell asleep. So um, checked on him. Everybody, his grandpa over here saw him early in the morning. I saw him at like 7 or 8. So like he's fine. He's finished. He was getting the garbage can off the street, like just doing everything normal. Like everything was fine. It's like cool, good job, you're done. You're finally done now. You're free. But it was just out of principle. Like the same thing. Like if you've got 1,000 sentences and he writes 999 and he says, "No, I'm not writing that last one," well, then you will sit there until you do. If it was 40 degrees out, it's 38 degrees now. If it was anything like that, then no. I told him to come in. But this is the second time he had tried that. So I just let him stay up there. 9-year-old boy sleeping in the backyard. What's wrong with that? It's a safe area in a fenced-in backyard. But apparently that's frowned upon. So the next day, I drop him off with his mom at 5 p.m. and it's May, so it's still daylight until 8, 9 o'clock. And it's nothing's wrong with him. Nothing. We talk. I hug him. I kiss him goodbye. I say, "I love you, buddy. See you in a few days." 3 days later, this is Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday afternoon, my mom has him at the sheriff's office, covered in bruises, covered in bites. Like I don't know. I fully cooperated. We fully cooperated. We went in like, no, I don't want to swear that I hadn't spanked him, in the last couple days, but I'm pretty sure I haven't because like I don't remember anything that actually happened that needed a spanking. Like he was just out there doing busy work. No big deal. But you're telling me in those 3 days that his mom, his stepdad, there was at least a sister that lived there. His other sister might have lived there at the time. I don't know. But like none of these people saw anything and called me and asked. No, but nobody took him to the hospital to the sheriff's office for 3 days. But when he's dropped off Saturday morning, he's covered in bruises. He's dropped off at my parents' house. He's covered in bruises and both bites, saying that they came from my house. I don't buy it because he had off, and because he's just like me. He's white. He has sunscreen too. And we had deep woods off. I still got the can. Probably expired now, but like you telling me that nobody noticed it. His mom didn't notice it for 3 days. So I don't know what happened. I don't. I know if he's got some kind of mental illness, he could have hurt himself, which is a side effect of ADHD, along with other numerous initial possibilities. Um, there's lots of stuff. Or if somebody else hurt him. I mean, statistically, a stepfather is more prone to abuse a child than the father. Look it up. But again, I can't say that he did because he was really never involved in Coby's life other than Taxi that I could see. Uh, but I don't get it. So CPS is a joke. Their policy is not to investigate the side that contacts them first, no matter what evidence there is. So we beg the investigators, send the photos of injuries. They have some kind of forensic team that can tell probably what the bruise came from, and then they can tell how old the bruises are. Please send it to them. Please. Never did. Never did. Beg for a lie detector test. Nope. Nope. Denied. I've got video on doorbell video the day before he left my house, or the day he left my house, and he's just fine. And yet my mom's saying he's limping and can barely walk because of how much abuse he had. He was fine when I dropped him off in the street to his mom. He didn't have any of that. Uh, the sheriff's office, Polk County Sheriff's Office, took the report but didn't want the video. Like, I offered it to it, brought it to him. Like, here's the video. Like, I wouldn't. I don't know. They didn't want it. They said they were going to do the report and let the DA investigate it further, so they didn't. Like, I never worked for the sheriff's office, but I knew everybody. So they didn't want to look at, like, favoritism or anything. So they just did the report and turned it in. They did no investigating. There was not one law enforcement officer that actually came to the crime scene. Nobody came out there to see how much shelter was out there when I let him spend the night out there. Didn't force him, allowed him to. I got a survey. The first CPS worker that came out agreed that it seemed like he was being coached because of certain things that were said and how they were said, and then the story changed. She agreed that he was being coached. And the very next day, she was transferred off that case. Protective order was denied because there was no evidence of previous or current abuse. Everyone that took that stand against me literally lied, and only because it took 2 days to complete it, I was able to bring more evidence showing that they lied. Like the little DJ system. But yet nobody got charged for lying on the road. Imagine that. A whole year after this, I was indicted for endangering a child because he had no shelter. We already covered that. 3.5 years after I dropped him off at his mama's house, and all these lies were told. 3.5 years. All the charges were dropped. I begged for my day in court. Every time I had to show up, I begged for my day. Give me my day in court. Let me bring all this evidence. Let a jury of my peers find me guilty or not guilty. Didn't get that chance. Because everybody, that's all the DA wants to do is make these plea deals. They ended up dismissing it. If I actually did what was said that I did, I deserve to be locked up. Anybody that does that kind of thing deserves to be locked up. Hell, I put them in jail myself before. But no. No. All charges dismissed. Anybody that's ever worked with me in the fields where force is used on a regular basis, they know I'd rather give people 5 extra minutes of talking to them instead of just jumping and using force against them. I was once described as irritatingly patient, because I am. There's never been, in 10 years of being a prison guard and 13 years of being a cop, has there ever been an accusation of excessive or unnecessary force? Never. Because I'm just a very chill individual. There's never been a question of my integrity. I'll hurt your feelings and lie to you if need be. And a lot of people say it's my delivery, but I got no reason to lie. And I was trying to teach Coby not to lie, and I teach his younger siblings not to lie. Nobody, it's never come into question before until now. So, and I do what I do now. I was doing it before Coby was taken from me, but because I wanted to do something that allowed me to spend more time with my kids and not get written up for being given permission to call in so that I could go coach his football team out of state or out of town. I was told to call in by the lieutenant in front of the sergeant and the detective, and that sergeant wrote me up for going to an extra job the day after I called in, because that's the kind of stuff he did, and it's practice, not policy. It was thrown out because like the lieutenant, at least at that time, knew that like that was just bullshit. But like you tell me to call in, I tried to switch to shifts with another guy that was willing to do it. He's like, nah, 20 years ago we got screwed over, so we're not doing that anymore. Like, cool. Yeah, go ahead and call in because we didn't have personal time off. We had 2 weeks vacation that had to be taken a week at a time. I just needed the morning to go to like Splendor to coach the football team. But anyway, I want to do something there. It's something better than just punching a clock for somebody. Because my entire life up until 4 years ago, when I got into real estate, was just working for somebody else. Because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to give your all and give 110% to whoever you work for, which they'll replace you. They don't care. Don't matter if I mean, hell, our quota was 2 tickets a day. But because I'm such a upstanding employee, I'd write 10 or 20 a day. Looking back at it, it's kind of messed up. But, you know, as long as I was told while I was training, as long as you write 2 tickets a day, you're fine. Live is to beat it. Yeah. So now, because of all of this, all the lies and all the BS, Coby's gone because he was raised by a mentally ill grandmother, a grandpa that gave up his first kid. 3.5 years ago, had his 45-ish-year-old second kid still living at home because he was an alcoholic and he couldn't be taught to live on his own. And he had no relationship with his third, me, my entire life, other than make me lie to my mom when I found this extensive porn collection in the garage. He tried to say he was holding it for somebody at work or something. No. He tried to show it to me in the bed of his truck. He was like, all right, I'm taking everything to the dump, just so you know. But, yeah, I had to lie and say it was from a friend of mine. And when my mom found it, and she was ripping it up into little pieces when I got off the bus one day, and she'd just been throwing up because it was so horrible. Yeah, your husband had his garage full of it. But I was told to lie by my dad. And I said, what am I going to do? I'm 15. I'm going to lie to my dad. I'm going to lie for my dad. Because I didn't know any better. Yeah, I do now. The guy that said he would leave his wife he would have left his wife a long time ago, but because she's never worked, she's entitled to alimony and half his retirement. So he honestly just couldn't afford to live. That would explain all the years of hunting alone. I was really never invited unless there was work to be done, or everybody was going out there because it's opening weekend or something, and everybody's like, I don't like people, but never once sat and stand by myself and my dad, not that I can remember. But 10, 15 years on this deer lease, spending how much money a year on the lease, and he brings 2 deer, maybe 3, the entire time. Yeah. But, grandparents that have numerous other grandchildren. My dad has 3, I believe, from his first daughter that he has nothing to do with. My brother has no kids. He's 45, lives at home with no kids. That's great parenting. Before Coby was taken from me, Maddie was 6, 7 months old. Never even reached out to meet her. Maddie's 4 years old, Carter's 2 years old, and have not, and at this point, will not meet my parents. They hadn't cared. Coby was the first grandkid, and apparently the only grandkid that they gave a shit about, allegedly. His mom that called him an accident took no interest in his life before she alienated me. That never missed a doctor's appointment. I was active at his school. I talked to his teachers every day. Took him to do the extracurricular activities. Did his homework with him. Even though I worked 6 or 7 days a week. There was a month of July I had 2 Wednesdays off. That was it. But I still made sure he knew he was loved and cared for. He was tucked in a bed, hugged and kissed every day he was with me. Every single day. the system's broken. I wish I knew how to fix it. Coby would still be alive if the agencies involved would have done their job instead of just filling out forms. But they just look at me like I'm a piece of shit. No. I love my kids. I love Coby. And I would never hurt them. But, because my dad worked for the phone company and he was a great employee, but he's a shitty fucking father. And apparently a shitty fucking grandfather. The only grandkid that he knew is to take his own life. How did they, like, how did they miss anything? Because I don't care. Like, I've dealt with mental health in my personal life and my professional life. There's no way you can't tell me that if you are actively involved in somebody's life that you don't know that it's coming. I wish I'd have done more. I wish I'd have fought harder, spent more money on more lawyers. Before it was like a month or two before they dismissed the charges, Coby reached out on a couple of, on my TikTok and somebody else's, and like 10 videos in a row. Not long enough to keep them, but it's just like. I didn't know what it meant at the time. Had I known that this was a possibility, I'd have reached out, done something. But I had no idea. I wish I did. I truly wish I did. So when they first took him from me, I spent a week on the couch. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get off the couch. It was devastating. See this boy that I loved so much that I did everything I could. I saw him in his casket. And I've never felt anything like that before in my life. Home be great on him. But, I broke down. I broke down bad. Because it was it's true. My son is gone. Had a full-blown panic attack. It was bad. This whole time I've been just kind of waiting until he turned 18 and no longer under control of the evil, and I call them evil, people responsible for this. They're so evil. To this day they haven't even texted me, called me, let me know my son killed himself. And I live 5 minutes away from him. And they know that. To this day, they didn't talk about the funeral arrangements, nothing. And I didn't show up because Coby, he hasn't had peace for some time, obviously. He has it now. And I know those evil and sick people would have started something at the funeral. So I'd miss my own son's funeral just to give him peace. Because there's no court order that I'm aware of that says I don't have custody of him. Or that anything's changed. Charges dropped. Protective order denied. There was nothing with the judge's order saying I couldn't see my son. I just assumed that he didn't want to see me. Which I've learned in the recent days that that's not true at all. He was alienated from his father, manipulated by these people that just have so much hate in their heart. But every day, I get to come talk to him. Maddie's seen him. That was a hard conversation. She doesn't know all the details details yet because she's 4. I'd like be 4, be a child. When you get bigger, we'll have different conversations. But they, even in his obituary, me, Maddie, and Carter, his blood relatives don't exist. Don't exist. They played the part well, but they are not good people, any of them. And that's why I walked away. That's why I got a divorce from the one evil one, and I walked away from the parents that, like, I knew were evil. I tried so hard to, but there's only so much you can do to protect your kids. And me and my loving family, we prefer peace. So this isn't everything. Like, I still have all kinds of evidence and stuff, but it paints a different picture than what's out there right now. The details hopefully will come out in court because I have been talking to different lawyers that are willing to take on the system because the sheriff's office here failed him, the DA's office failed him, CPS failed him, his mom failed him, the school. Was he seeing a therapist there? Should he have been at least? Like there's had he still been in my life, I'd have seen all these signs. I'd have locked up every firearm, sought medical attention, other than just tripling his ADHD medication. And that's all they did. The last time I checked, that's all they did was triple it, including a dose when he got home because they didn't want to deal with him, make him a freaking zombie. 1,000% my son would still be alive had he still been in my life, and these lies weren't told to him or about me. Now it's up to Livingston PD to hold people accountable. If is the word the detective used. If. So, as a cop of 13 years, making a firearm accessible to a child and it results in serious injury or death is a Class A misdemeanor. The way I look at it, endangering a child by allowing him access to a firearm, knowing he has mental health issues, is a state jail felony. You know, there wasn't, because it's an ongoing investigation, he didn't want to tell me a whole lot, which is fine. It's, it is what it is. But I asked him, did they swab his hands for gunshot residue? No. And now it's far too late just to see if he actually pulled the trigger or if somebody else did. But they take the word of a couple of liars that actually have no idea what goes on in my house or anything like that. But you got a 13-year-old that shot himself, allegedly. That's what we're going with. But you're not gonna investigate to prove that. Gunshot residue. He'd have it all over his hand. Or somebody else in the house would. But let's not do that. He didn't like the idea of me telling him how to do his job. I didn't tell him how to do it. I was just asking questions. But I've done his job. 13 years. 8.5 of them at his current department. But, how dare I tell him how to do his job? You gotta look at the totality of the circumstances. Not just what happened right here in this little speck of the universe. You have to look at everything. Because just because it's he said, she said doesn't mean that one of them's not lying. Because every story, everything out here has 3 or 4 versions of it. The difference in mine is I can prove it. It's not just my word against yours or theirs. There's evidence, but nobody actually wanted to look at it. So if the city decides to charge, I seriously hope somebody needs to be held accountable. Everybody needs to be held accountable. For my 13-year-old son to shoot himself in the head, 19 days before his 14th birthday. Christmas Eve, he died on Christmas Eve. December 22nd, he tried. Shouldn't have never have happened. Never. no matter what the circumstances, no matter what, there is no reason why a 13-year-old should be even contemplating suicide and nobody do anything to stop it. Yeah. So my comments are off because, again, I like peace. You want to reach out, if you're on my page, you know me. I mean, either way, if you want to reach out and have a conversation about it, fine. I've already been cussed out by at least one cousin that just listens to one side of the story but don't actually know the truth. Um, but my page is a place of peace. I post nice things, sweet things, things with my other kids. I don't want all the negativity. So that's why the comments are going to be turned off. I want the story out there. Coby deserves a voice that he's lacked for 3.5 years. But, and I know I'm stirring up a hornet's nest because everybody's just being put on blast. It is what it is. They took my son from me and made him believe that suicide was the only answer. So let's stir the pot. Let the truth get out there. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that the people responsible for it are held accountable. Because that's all I can do now. My hands were tied before. I don't know. My son deserves a voice. Fuck, he deserves to be here still. Yeah. You got my number, reach out. You wanna talk to me, you wanna just like there's nothing anybody can say that makes anybody feel better about any of this. And I know that I've been on the other side of this. Like, there's nothing that can take away this pain. And I know that everybody out there that loves me, that knows me, like, all I have to do is pick up the phone. And I know that. And I appreciate that. I know who my people